He was bullied for having no magic, but after making a promise with his friend, he becomes determined to do whatever it takes to become the greatest mage in history. The story begins with a boy named William Surfort as he fights a monster in a dungeon because he wants to prove that he can succeed at the Rigor and Magic Academy even though he can't use magic. He defeats the monster using his sword, but countless more appear, and he prepares to take them on, thinking he doesn't need magic to defeat them. A professor named Edward Seraphins teaches a class at the academy, and he tells William to come to the front. He asks William to use magic to start a fire, so he tries to use his wand to cast a spell, but he fails miserably, and everyone starts laughing at him. Edward silences the class, but he's surprised William can't even use basic magic, telling him he's only good at taking notes. A student named Xian shows everyone how it's done, but Edward tells him not to demonstrate his powers without permission. So he apologizes, explaining that he just wanted to help William because he couldn't complete the task. Edward freezes the fire and tells everyone that magic is everything in this world, so the students in the academy will earn respect by showing their talent for magic. He thinks those who are incapable of using magic have no place in the academy, so they should withdraw immediately. After the class, Xian asks William if he isn't embarrassed, knowing he's been going to the dungeon to defeat weak monsters. A girl named Colette comes to his rescue, and Xian wonders why she's standing up for him, so she tells him William is her friend. She mentions that he works extremely hard and is nicer than Xian, but he explains that those qualities don't make a good mage. He decides to leave because he doesn't want to waste his time around William, telling him he should just drop out. Colette tells him to ignore them, thinking something's wrong with Edward for making him a laughingstock, but he says he's okay because it's true he can't use magic. He even considers himself lucky because the incident made a cute girl worry about him. So she blushes, asking him what he wants from her, but he explains that he's just telling the truth because he has always been told he should compliment girls. So she becomes embarrassed, but she reminds herself to maintain her composure because she belongs to a noble family, even if it's just a name. She sees William staring at the sky, so she asks him if something's wrong, but he mentions that he's just admiring how beautiful the day is. We learn that a long time ago, people didn't know about the sky, and they were trapped in darkness because the world was terrorized by invaders known as the Celestial Host. But 5 wizards opposed them, and with their combined powers, they were able to defeat the Celestial Host. They cast a seal over the sky, bringing peace to the world, and the title of Magia was passed down from them ever since, but it's only given to the strongest mages. Colette wonders if the Ice Maiden is watching over them, and William imagines her sitting by her window looking out for them. In a flashback, William talks with a girl named Elfaria, who tells him that the sun and moon are floating in the real sky. She thinks if they become Magia and climb to the top of the tower, they will be able to see the sunset, so they promise to climb the tower together. Elfaria becomes the youngest person ever to earn the title of Magia, and she leaves for the top of the tower. But William has no talent for magic, so he's nowhere near her level, but he still works hard to fulfill his promise to her. Back in the present, we meet a professor named Werkner, who scolds William for going to the dungeon alone, so he immediately apologizes, but he still wants the credit points for killing a monster. Werkner gives him 2 points, but asks him if he still dreams about becoming a Magia, because he needs to advance to the Upper Institute before he can head up the tower. In order to advance, he needs to get a ridiculous amount of credit points from all 3 categories of writing, spellwork, and praxis. But since he can't use magic, he can never get the credits from spellwork. He explains that he already knows this, which is why he's working on praxis and going to the dungeon, but Werkner thinks it's impossible for him to advance. He doesn't want William to worry about becoming a Magia when he might even fail to graduate, telling him he needs to earn 4 credits by the end of the week to get a passing mark. He starts to panic, and he goes through his notes to find a monster worth 4 credit points. Werkner decides to help him, telling him about a monster called a Baskerville, which appeared on the 6th floor, and William hugs him, thanking him for his help. But Xian hears their conversation, and he decides to hunt the monster himself, so that William will get expelled. William reaches the 6th floor, but his companion Kiki seems worried. So he tells her everything's going to be fine. He mentions they just have to avoid the monster's flaming breath, and he's depending on her nose to guide them. We see Xian with his friends, as they also enter the 6th floor. He's about to explain his plan, but they're suddenly attacked by a powerful monster called an evil sentinel, which is worth 10 credit points. It punches one of them and sends him flying into a wall, so Shion's friend panics, and William hears him scream, so he immediately goes to find them. As he reaches them, he sees Shion struggling, trying to attack the monster with his fire magic, but it has no effect. William wonders if he should help, because Shion has always bullied him, but he suddenly remembers how Alferia used to think he was braver than anyone. So he decides to jump into battle, blocking the monster's sword before it can reach Shion. Meanwhile, Edward approaches Werkner, telling him to use his familiar to find Shion's group, because they went into the dungeon without permission. He wonders what floor they're on, so Edward reveals that they're on the 6th floor, and Werkner tells him to relax, because William is also there. William fights the monster head-on, and he manages to land a hit, but it fights on, smashing the ground. He moves around it with ridiculous speed, and he manages to land a decisive blow, as Shion watches the fight, and he can't believe he's watching the same William he's been bullying. Werkner and Edward also watch the fight, and Edward is shocked by William's strength. Werkner explains that even though William can't use magic, he possesses superhuman strength and durability, and he even has the ability to understand his enemy's strategies after seeing them once. The monster tries to kill him, but he dodges the attack and slices off its arm. It fires an energy blast, but William slashes through it and cuts the monster in half. He asks Shion if he's okay, but he's upset because he was saved by someone with no magic, and Edward is furious because he can't believe William has a power that surpasses magic. The next day, William reports to Werkner, who gives him 10 credit points, and William is happy since he won't be expelled anymore. In a flashback to 5 years earlier, we see the students talking about William, thinking he was only admitted to the academy so they could lure Alferia. But she has already become a Magia, so he's no longer needed, and they think he's about to get expelled. He goes with Werkner, and they meet the headmaster named Cauldron, who gives him a knife, and attacks him with fire spells, but he destroys all of them. She's impressed by his skills, so she allows him to continue attending at the academy. But he starts crying, wondering if he will ever be able to reach Alferia, and she thinks it might be possible if he keeps working hard. We return to the present, as Werkner gives a lecture, and he explains the concept of ascending the tower, saying it means advancing to the upper institute to become one of the Magia at the top floor. To ascend the tower, the mages can create a new type of magic, or earn 7,200 credits from the academy. Werkner explains that most of the students use credits to advance, but he yells at them because everyone in the class is on the verge of failing. After the class, Colette joins William, knowing he has earned every credit in writing, but Werkner is still hard on him, and he tells her it's because he failed spell work. He thinks Werkner is a great teacher since he's giving them supplementary lessons, saying other professors don't even care if they fail. They run into Shion, as his friends tell everyone that he defeated an evil sentinel, but he knows he didn't do it. He sees William, and he grabs him, wondering why he's so powerful, despite having no talent for magic, but Colette interferes, and he decides to leave him alone. Meanwhile, Edward goes to Cauldron, telling her to expel William, but she doesn't think it would be fair, since he's in his last year. Edward thinks there's no place in the academy for someone who can't use magic, so she shows him William's records, and explains that he's exceptional in everything except for magic. So even if he can't become a Magia, there are other options available for him. She explains that the academy needs to produce scholars for the fated day, but Edward thinks the problem is that William doesn't want to become a scholar, because he's planning to become a Magia. So she tells Edward to test him, and after seeing how he performs, Edward can decide what to do with him. William apologizes to Colette, because he needs to bring her with him to open his locker, but as she opens it, she sees his sword, and he mentions that he doesn't have the permission to carry it around the campus. They head to the study hall, where William starts reading about dwarves, and Colette thinks he doesn't have to work so hard, because he's already good at writing. But he knows that if he loses even 1 credit point, he won't be able to ascend the tower, and he wants to learn about the dwarves, saying he can relate to them, because they never gave up no matter the situation. Colette sees William's white hair, and thinks it's because he works too hard. She wants to pull it out, but they're suddenly interrupted by Edward, who tells William to come to the spell hall alone. As they reach the hall, Edward explains that he's going to give William a supplementary lesson, because he always fails the spellwork class. Edward starts using dark magic, telling William he needs to land a hit to pass the test, and Edward explains that if he succeeds, he will receive 5 credit points for his spellwork class, but he will have to leave the academy if he fails. Wertner goes to Cauldron, who shows him the fight between Edward and William, so he's shocked, wondering what's going on. But she forbids him from stopping them, and explains that since she heard what he had to say in favor of William, she must also recognize Edward's concerns equally. She reveals that she allowed him to make the decision of William's future in the academy, but Wertner thinks it's too cruel, because Edward is the closest person to becoming a Magia, and even though he was defeated, he still managed to reach the top of the tower. He tries to hit William with his dark magic, and William dodges the attacks, but he's shocked by how powerful it is, knowing Edward only used a low-level spell. He goes on the offensive, trying to land a kick, but Edward stops him with a barrier, thinking he's hopeless. Edward hits William with his black flames, and William is shocked by how quickly he's using his spells, because he's casting them without incantations. He tells William that he's only going to use his black flames to attack, and make a shield to protect himself, saying he will make him feel despair just by using 2 spells. He starts overlapping his spells, and William tries to get out of the way, but he still gets hit, realizing he can't beat Edward, but he thinks he might have been able to put up a fight if he had his sword. Meanwhile, Colette goes to the locker room, and she thinks Edward might be torturing William. Kiki suddenly arrives, and Colette realizes she's injured, but she just claws at William's locker. We return to the fight, as Edward talks about the Battle of Goronzo, where the dwarves prepared an army of 10,000 soldiers, but it only took 1 mage to defeat them. He steps on William's head, telling him to give up on his dreams, because a sword can never become as strong as a wand, but he still wants to become a Magia. Edward wonders what's driving him so hard to achieve an impossible goal, so he mentions that he wants to be with the person he loves. He thinks William is an idiot, but he explains that even if his reason sounds ridiculous to him, he still won't give up. Colette suddenly arrives, giving him his sword, and Edward attacks with his black flames, but is surprised when William slashes through it. He prepares to shoot a barrage of his black flames once again, and William worries about getting hit. But he charges in, and as he dodges the attack, he thinks about how in the Battle of Goronzo, there was one dwarf who never gave up, and managed to land a hit on the mage. William jumps up to the ceiling, and he rushes at Edward with incredible speed, shattering his barrier, and he manages to land a hit. So Edward leaves, giving William the 5 credit points as promised, and Cauldron is impressed that he was able to succeed. William goes around the city to distribute newspapers, and he trips on the stairs, but he manages to catch all of the newspapers except one. As he goes to pick it up, he sees the news that Alferia has invented a new magic, making her the first person to come up with 12 original spells. He reads on, realizing that the Upper Institute has issued an order to the Academy, and the client is Alferia herself. William goes to his dorm, and asks his roommate Rosti if he can prepare a magic item for him. He wonders why William is in such a rush, and he mentions that the order came from Alferia, so he needs to get there quickly. He explains that he doesn't have classes today, so he's going to prioritize completing the order, and Rosti wonders if the job is difficult. So William reveals he just needs to collect some Frostwalker cores, saying Alferia needs magic catalysts, and all students who help her will be compensated. He explains that he's going to the 4th floor, which is why he needs Rosti's magic items, and he gives William what he needs. Before he can leave, Rosti gives him a piece of bread, telling him to take care of himself. A large number of students turn up in the dungeon, but William already expected it, because it was an order from Alferia. He's about to start hunting, when he's startled because of Xian's attack. Everyone praises him, but he isn't satisfied, as he remembers how amazing William was when he fought the evil sentinel. But William is impressed by Xian, and he decides to go deeper into the dungeon, thinking Xian might defeat all the monsters in the area. He comes across a girl named Iris, who's about to be attacked by 3 monsters, but he comes to her rescue, slicing them in half. She's shocked that he saved her with a sword, instead of using magic, and she thanks him for protecting her. Meanwhile, Wertner tells the students that creating new magic is such a great achievement that it guarantees one's advancement in the tower. He mentions that magic is named after the person who invents it, so if they're able to create a new one, their names will forever be remembered in history, but the students know it isn't easy to invent magic. One of them wonders how strong Alferia is, and Wertner mentions that she's one of the most powerful mages in history. Colette thinks Elpharia is amazing, and her friend tells her she's jealous that Elpharia will steal William from her, so she becomes embarrassed. In the dungeon, William tells Iris who he is, and he wonders if she feels any hatred toward him since he can't use magic. But she tells him she has no reason to hate him, reminding him that he just saved her life. He asks her if she's also there due to Elpharia's order, and she explains that she wants to be of help to Amagia, because she also wants to become one. He thinks about how they don't know what the real sky looks like, because it's covered by an enormous barrier created by the Magia, which is protecting the world from invaders. According to legend, if the barrier falls, the world will once again be covered with darkness, and the calamity will begin. So the students follow the orders of Magia, thinking it will help them support the sky. Iris mentions the time she was surrounded by monsters, and was preparing for death, but Elpharia saved her by freezing all of them. She became a fan of Elpharia ever since, so she wants to help her by acting on her order, but she hasn't even found a Frostwalker, and she's starting to think the other students have already defeated them. William tells her that when Frostwalkers move, they leave ice fragments behind. But the fragments he found are double the size of normal ones, which means there's a powerful Frostwalker up ahead, and it's in a place where everyone's search magic can't detect it. She wonders how he knows so much when he can't even use magic, and he tells her spells are amazing, but it isn't absolute, especially inside a dungeon. A monster suddenly appears, and it's about to smash Iris, but William saves her, and she sees that it's a Frost Rex, which is the highest form of a Frostwalker worth 6 credit points. It fires a laser beam, which freezes everything in its path, but William manages to evade. He tells Iris to stay put, but she stops him, since she doesn't think physical attacks will work on the monster. She recognizes it as the Dwarf Killer, knowing it freezes everything it touches, so they need to defeat it using long-range magic spells. But he's confident in his abilities, because he has defeated the monster before, so he rushes towards it, as it shoots its laser again, but it misses William. It starts destroying the dungeon, as William throws the magic item he got from Rosti, and it hooks onto the monster. He wraps the rope around its body, and it starts freezing everything, but William knows it's weak against fire attacks. So he sets the rope on fire, causing a massive explosion, which blows the monster into pieces. Iris is shocked by how powerful he is, and she wonders how she should report the fight, because he's completely different from the rumors about him. After that, Iris meets the Magia, and we learn that they sent her to find someone capable of helping them. They know that if they're attacked by the celestial hosts now, they won't be able to stop it, so they need all the help they can get. She tells them William is the only interesting prospect she found, but the Magia have different opinions on whether to let him in. There are 2 that argue and they prepare to fight, but another one stops them, saying the Grand Festival is about to start, so they will make their decision after seeing the results. We learn that there are a total of 12,000 credit points available at the Academy, and we see the students fighting against golems in a test. Shion and Colette are able to defeat their golems and pass, but we see William struggling. He thinks about punching it, but the other students make fun of him, and he ends up getting hit, and they think he's a failure. We see 2 of the top students, Wignall and Liana, as they easily overwhelm their golems, allowing them to pass. Another boy named Julius appears, firing multiple ice shards that hit all the other golems, and they turn into roses. He activates his spell, and they are all completely encased in ice, so he also passes. He meets with the other 2, and he declares his intent to beat them, saying he has acquired a new method, and they tell him they will be looking forward to it. Everyone admires them, since they are the only students with over 10,000 credit points, and William thinks about how he doesn't even have enough to graduate, as we see he only has around 5,000. He feels depressed, and Julius suddenly walks past, telling him he's in the way. Julius's friends are impressed he passed with a single spell, so they think he will definitely get scouted at the Grand Festival. Colette has lunch with William, and she tells him the festival is also his chance to get scouted, because trying to advance without spell work is unrealistic. She mentions how it's possible to advance even if he doesn't have enough credit points, as long as he gets scouted. We learn that the Grand Festival is an event held every 2 years, where there are a number of different competitions, and there are high mages that come down from the tower as scouts. Colette mentions the festival is basically a contest between the students from the different tower factions. There are 5 factions for the different elements, and each is led by a Magia, and if they can be chosen by one of the factions, they are guaranteed to become a tower member, but William thinks it's unlikely because he would also need to perform a feat of amazing magic. So Colette mentions there are also people called Watchers, and they are also able to take talented people to the tower, but William thinks they don't really exist. He thinks he shouldn't try to stand out since he has no magic, remembering how he participated in the last festival, but everyone just thought he was cheating, and he's still traumatized from the experience, so he decides to just help out behind the scenes. They see all the other students practicing, and Colette mentions there will also be scouts coming from other capitals, so there will be other opportunities besides going to the tower, and she tells him to promote himself. She helps him with his locker, but she suddenly senses something, seeing that someone cast a barrier along with sound-dampening magic. She gets Kiki to take a look, and she's able to dispel the barrier. They open the locker, and it turns out to lead to a hidden stairway, so they decide to check it out. We see other students inside, and they turn out to be placing bets on who will win the events of the festival. William sees that Xian is also there, and as he prepares to insult William, Colette tells him to back off. William wonders what he's doing there, and we learn he's there to see the odds on himself, and he's annoyed that everyone only cares about the top 3. He mentions he's only behind them because he lost some credits in the writing exams, but he thinks he's on par with them in terms of magical skill. After their next class, Colette asks William if he's busy, but he mentions he needs to work, so she becomes depressed. We see him working at Gina's tavern, where he serves a dwarf named Donan. He's surprised by how hardworking he is, since he delivers the newspaper and also works here at night, but he notes that since he doesn't qualify for a scholarship, he needs to work to pay for it. Rosti is also helping out, and he thinks it's fun working without using magic. We learn William asked him to help because the other part-timer quit, and everyone seems to like having William around. As they clean up, Rosti wonders why he works here, because Worker would be able to get him a better job, but he mentions he doesn't want to trouble him, and he likes hanging out with the dwarves. He accidentally drops his spoon, and as he goes to pick it up, Julius enters the tavern. He thinks the place is a dump, but his friends mention there's nowhere else that's open. As William stands up, Julius is surprised to see him, saying he fits right in with the savages. Donan is offended hearing this, but Julius calls them an inferior race who had to come from another world. He tells Donan to know his place, and we learn that the dwarves' world was destroyed by the celestial host, and they escaped to this world. But they aren't well regarded here since they can't use magic. So if a dwarf were to lay their hands on a mage, it would instantly threaten their standing. Rosti serves them a bean dish, but the boys laugh at it, thinking it isn't fit to be eaten. They continue to insult the dwarves, but William confronts them, telling them to take back everything they said. He tells them that the dwarven beans are grown from barren soil, so it's the culmination of their wisdom and proof they survived even in the harshest conditions, but Julius kicks the dish away, and it lands on William. The two boys prepare to mess with him, but he instantly smashes them both into the ground. He thinks that they are the ones who are savages, and Julius decides to get serious. William dodges his ice, but he ends up getting pinned to the wall. Julius creates a rose on his chest, and as he prepares to activate it, Donan tells him to stop. But seeing the look on William's face, he changes his mind, telling him to join the grand festival so he can humiliate him in front of everyone. Donan thinks it's a bad idea, but William agrees, telling him to apologize to Donan and the others if he wins. The grand festival begins, and the first event is the Sky Race, where we see Liana ahead of everyone on her dragon, and the other participants struggle to keep up with her. The students in the audience are amazed by her skills, and they think she's sure to win. Cauldron notes that the Tower Scouts are already in the stands analyzing everything, and Iris believes it's because mages from outside the tower are also there to find talent. Liana wins the Sky Race for the second year in a row and sets a new record, making everyone understand why she's one of the top 3. Iris puts on her glasses and excuses herself, telling Cauldron that there's someone she wants to cheer for. Xian's friends wish him luck for the next event, and they tell him that even though they didn't qualify, they will still cheer for him. He thanks them, and remembers how Colette requested him to join her team, so he rushes to find her, believing that she will always choose him over William. But when he finds her, he's stunned to see William with her, and she reveals they were short on credit points and needed him on their team to fill the gap. He's frustrated that a loser like William is participating in the event, and that they're on the same team, so he yells at him, but William ignores him and stares at Julius, who passes behind him. Colette reveals that William wants to defeat Julius, but Shion is angry for being ignored. The festival host, named Mike, announces the beginning of the afternoon events, and he introduces Edward as his guest commentator, calling him the most hated teacher in the academy, but Edward asks if he wants to die. Mike announces that the next competition is the crown attack, which is also the main event of the festival, and it will be played in teams of 3, so he tells the elf faction to get to work, and they use their magic to create 5 zones around the stadium. Mike mentions that the teams will begin on the outside, and they must get through the zones, which contain a variety of traps and obstacles set by the professors, and the winner will be the first team that makes their way to the stadium and reaches the crown. He mentions it's a battle royale, so the teams can also attack each other. Edward mentions they will be looking at how they work as a team, telling them to treat it as if it were a real dungeon dive. Mike mentions that all the top students are participating in this event, but the favorites to win are Wignall and Julius. He mentions he has bet all his savings on Wignall, but he also wants to watch Colette's squad, since they have Shion, but also William, and the other students can't believe that William is competing, thinking he's crazy. Werkner is also shocked to see him in the event, reminding him to avoid it, but William is determined to win. The teams take their positions, and the competition begins. All the teams rush forward, but they are immediately faced with countless golems that block their path. William rushes ahead, but the other students think it's useless, remembering how he couldn't even scratch a golem during their exam. But William calls for Colette's help, and she uses her magic to create an earth gauntlet for him, which he uses to blow one of the golems away, clearing a path for them. His strength leaves the audience shocked, and Colette mentions that even though William can't use magic, he isn't breaking the rules if he uses a magic gauntlet. Shion thinks about when William saved him, which made him disgusted with himself, so he trained himself until he almost died, but he realizes that William is still stronger than him. Their squad takes the lead, and they're the first ones into the Badland Zone, where there are giant cubes that attack with stone bullets, but William punches the ground, which raises a shield to block the attacks. He calls for Colette's help again, and she uses her earth magic to create a number of swords for him. He starts throwing them at the cubes, destroying them one by one, but he misses one of them, and he finishes it off by slashing it. Mike announces that they are ahead of everyone, while Shion's friends cope by saying it's all thanks to Colette's magic. The scouts are amazed by how fast William is, and Edward thinks it's his knowledge and experience that allows him to move with efficiency, while his reflexes allow him to attack so quickly, and Iris cheers for him to win. Meanwhile, 2 of the other teams are eliminated because they can't handle the traps, and Julius notices noise from the stadium, so his team reveals that William's squad is in the lead, but he tells them not to worry. William's team reaches the final zone called the Enchanted Woods, and after crossing it, they will reach the stadium, but they are suddenly surrounded by circle traps. He instantly cuts all of them, changing their directions so that they attack themselves. Mike wonders what Edward thinks, since he was the one who set up those traps, but he just seems annoyed. William approaches the stadium, but he knows that the closer they get, the more likely they will be to run into another team, so he decides to take a different route, and goes ahead of everyone to set a trap for Julius, but he is suddenly attacked by ice, as we see that Julius is already there. William wonders if he's alone, but Julius unleashes his next attack, throwing countless ice beams at William, but Shion starts melting the ice, and he starts to cast a powerful spell, but he uses it on William, and Colette barely makes a shield in time. There's a huge explosion which destroys the forest, and Shion tells Julius to go away, because he doesn't want anyone to interrupt his fight with William, while Colette and William can't believe their own teammate is acting so childish. Shion mentions he tried to be a good person for Colette, but he can't take it anymore. Julius suddenly creates a giant ice wall, trapping Colette behind it. William worries about her, but he's attacked by Shion and he loses his sword. He tells Shion it's not the time to fight, but he insists on it, telling him to pick up his sword. In a flashback, we learn the other students used to make fun of William since he didn't have any talent with magic, but Shion didn't like it, so he decided to take William as his underling, but William just ignored him, which made him angry, and ever since that day, he has despised William. Back in the present, William dodges Shion's attacks and hides behind a tree, but he unleashes his flame whip, which grabs William's leg and lifts him up, but he cuts the rope and saves himself. Xian notes that jumping and dodging his attacks won't do much. Xian invites him to attack, but William mentions their teammates, and he made a promise to Donan and the others to punish Julius, so he needs to fight him instead. Xian gets angry, telling William that if he doesn't fight back, he will destroy him, making him wonder if fighting is the only option left. Meanwhile, the audience becomes aware of the fight, and Mike asks Edward for his take on the situation. He reveals fighting with your own teammates is against the rules of the event, and the Tower Scouts will see it as a significant mark against them. Mike is surprised to see that Edward is happy about the fight between Xian and William, while others are upset about Xian's stupid decision to start a fight with his own team. Kiki is worried to see what's happening, while Rosti also wonders about the situation. Iris joins them, and she starts to cheer for William. Rosti mentions it's unexpected to see her cheer for one person in particular, because he thought she would be cheering for the crowd's favorite, so she reveals she wasn't interested in William initially, but she has become obsessed with him. She wonders if Rosti is also a fan, so he mentions that he loves William more than anything, since they're also roommates. Meanwhile, Colette rushes to stop William and Xian, but she finds Julius, who tells her to stop running, or else people will think she isn't suitable for her title as the Earth Princess. She gets angry and warns him to shut his mouth, but Julius attacks with his ice, so she defends herself, but we see he was just triggering a trap, and there's a huge blast. The audience is confused as they watch, and realize that Julius is in several places at once, confronting each of the other squads. Wignall is happy to see him, and Julius reminds him of his declaration to deal with him, but Wignall uses his wind magic, and we see that it was just a clone made from ice. Mike is happy to see Wignall beating Julius, since his money is on the line, but the scout from the elf faction named Phildus mentions that Wignall is average, because he neither exceeds nor fails to meet their expectations. She wants to go home since she's an introvert, but her companion Lafia tells her she can't leave, because they need to report the events to Lady Eleanor. Meanwhile, William wonders why Xian is so fixated on fighting him. He remembers the time when he used to get bullied, and he was aware that he was the biggest failure, so he didn't want Xian to take his side, because he thought it was selfish, and he also didn't want to shift away from his goal of meeting Elfaria. Xian shoots at him and he runs away, but Xian uses his magic to call his guardian, which is a flaming falcon. The falcon rushes towards William, but he cuts its wing using his sword, and runs at Xian to attack him. But the falcon follows him, and he thinks he needs to cut through the falcon's core to destroy it, or else it won't stop. The falcon regenerates its wing and shoots fire at William, which he dodges, but Xian attacks him from the front. He blocks it using his gauntlet, and even though he is being attacked from all directions, he still manages to save himself. But Edward is impressed by Xian, who he thinks has surpassed the level of a student, because he can use high-level fire magic, while also calling his guardian. The scout from the fire faction recognizes Xian's strength, thinking that even though he has less credit points than the top 3, the festival has allowed him to stand out, and he tells his companion to report to Lord Cariot that they have found an unexpected talent. William asks why Xian is after him, so he reveals that even the sight of him irritates him, because his resolve to never give up infuriates him. He felt he was always ignored, and William never even looked at him, even though he was better than him at magic. He doesn't care what William's situation is, and he's determined to just crush him once and for all. William is shocked to learn how Xian feels, and he thinks about the time he told Xian to leave him alone. He thought it would have been selfish to ask Xian to become his friend since he was a loser, but deep down he also wanted the recognition. He realizes Xian acknowledges him, so he decides to take him on. Xian is happy to see him looking at him, and he prepares to use a wide-scale attack magic. He sends his falcon to attack, and William faces it head-on, and he manages to cut through the Guardian's core. He rushes at Xian, who prepares his final attack, but Colette suddenly creates a wall to stop them. William wonders what happened to Julius, so she mentions she beat him and he disappeared. Xian gets embarrassed seeing her clothes, but she blames him since he started the fight. She tells William to go after Julius, saying she can handle Xian. He tells her not to get in his way, but she just starts yelling at him. William gives her his jacket, and thanks her for everything, which makes her blush. He tells Xian they will fight another time, but he heads to the stadium and Xian tells him to come back. Meanwhile at the stadium, the crowd waits to see who will be the first to arrive, and Julius's group appears. There seems to be no one left to challenge them, but William suddenly comes flying in, and he crashes in right behind them, challenging Julius to a fight. Meanwhile in the tower, we see Alferia by the window, as her attendant Sarissa comes to find her, but she realizes she's sleeping. Alferia wonders what she wants, so Sarissa gives her the reports from their scouts, telling her to consider Julius, because he could become her successor for the Ice faction. At the stadium, Julius is happy to see William, because he wouldn't have been satisfied winning without humiliating him, but William says he doesn't plan on losing. Julius covers the area with a mist, so William relies on sensing their magic. He realizes they're surrounding him, and he gets attacked from behind, but he dodges all their attacks. He charges through the mist and finds Julius, but he gets attacked by a fourth ice spell. He wonders where it came from, and Julius reveals they haven't even moved, as William realizes he was fighting against Julius's clones. Julius blows one of them up, freezing William in place, and Worker is shocked seeing Julius's magic, because the cloning spell is one of the 12 original spells that Alferia created. William wonders how he can use it, but he says he's just built different, saying he's on the level of the Magia, declaring that he will one day take everything from Alferia. William gets mad and breaks free, but he gets attacked from all sides by the clones. Julius uses another spell, and the clones suddenly converge, and they form a barrier that traps William. Julius summons an enormous ice crater, and he uses it to crush William. Edward is impressed he won without even moving from his place, and Julius calls out to the scouts, boasting about having perfected Alferia's magic, and telling them that he will become her successor. But the ice suddenly cracks, and William is able to get free, thanking Julius for cooling his head, since he got worked up after he mentioned Alferia. Julius prepares to humiliate him further, launching another attack, but William dodges it, and he knocks out Julius's two friends. He notes that Julius hasn't perfected Alferia's spell, and the clones suddenly start to shatter, revealing that Julius was using his friends to help control the clones. He tells Julius he's not even close to Alferia's level, and we see Alferia considering him, but she notes that she's not looking for a successor, but rather a sword that can be by her side. Julius creates more clones to surround William, but he's able to read their attacks. Julius knows he isn't good enough to control 4 clones yet, but he thinks they can act as decoys, since they look exactly like him, but William suddenly charges at his real body, so he creates a wall, but he gets pushed back. He wonders how William could tell, so he notes that the clones have a negative body temperature, and when they aren't controlled correctly, the ice seeps out from their feet. Julius wonders how someone with no talent could know more about the spell than him, so William mentions how he grew up with Alferia at the orphanage. He admired and studied her magic, but he was never able to reach her. Alferia thinks that his hard work will pay off, and he tells Julius he knows everything about her magic. William reveals that Alferia created the spell when she was only 2, telling him it's nothing to brag about, so he falls to his knees, realizing he was on the level of an infant. He starts to laugh, refusing to lose, and he summons even more clones, deciding to win with sheer force, but William reveals he used to get bullied by Alferia, who had even more clones. Julius launches his attack, but William dodges it, and he stabs one of the clones. Julius gets scared and runs, ordering the clones to attack, but William blocks everything, and he takes them out one by one. He throws his sword to destroy the last clone, and he delivers the finishing blow on Julius. The crowd can't believe he was able to win, and Colette and Xian finally make it to the stadium. They just need to grab the crown, but we see Wignall taking it, and Mike is excited to see this. The event comes to an end, and Alferia asks Sarissa if there's a magic that can go back in time, revealing that she wasn't bullying William with her clones, but just wanted to play with him all by herself. Xian can't believe William was able to beat Julius, but he swears to be the one to defeat him. William apologizes for not getting the crown, but Colette is just glad to see he's okay, and William is happy he was able to keep his promise. We see William and his friends drinking with the dwarves as they celebrate his victory, and Donan wonders if he has been scouted by the tower. But Colette reveals that he wasn't, saying they didn't even win the event, and she blames Xian for the outcome. Rosti asks William about Xian, so he reveals that he invited him, but he refused to join them. Donan thinks it's okay, because William won the fight, and he even got a proper apology. We see Julius washing the dishes, and Gina tells him they're short-staffed, telling him to work faster, because he still needs to serve the customers. He realizes that his reputation has been ruined, because he lost to William, and he runs to perform his other tasks, as Colette mentions that he got what he deserved. Workner thinks William is going to have a hard time when he returns to the academy, because he just showed everyone what he can do. Colette thinks they're just going to stop underestimating him, but Workner explains that it isn't that simple. The next day, we see students talking about an upcoming event known as the All-Student Praxis, where they need to survive in the dungeon for an entire week. But they're required to form parties, so everyone's searching for capable party members. William walks around the academy, but there are two students that approach him, inviting him to join their party, as they admit that he's ridiculously strong. But the other students surround him, and they all want to explore the dungeon with him, so they start fighting over him, as Colette realizes that they're all interested in him, because they know how powerful he is. But she stops them, telling them they have no shame, as she reminds them that they used to bully him. She thinks he's angry, but he reveals that he's happy, because they want to be his friend. A girl invites him to join her, but Colette stops her, saying he's going to be busy shopping with her. That evening, Colette realizes that she made it sound like she's going on a date with William, and her roommate Rose tells her to wear something cute. We see William studying in his room, when Rosti asks him what he's going to do tomorrow. So he tells Rosti that he's going to go shopping with Colette, who persuaded him to join her, by telling him that they need to buy items to prepare for the all-student praxis. The next day, we see Colette waiting at a plaza, as she wonders if she's really going to have a date with William, who greets her as he arrives, telling her that she looks good. He mentions that she made his heart race, so she becomes flustered, but Rosti suddenly arrives, and he introduces himself as William's roommate, saying he's looking forward to go shopping with her. She's confused hearing this, so William explains he wanted to come along, and he suddenly holds William's hand, telling him it's time to go, so she freaks out, wondering what kind of relationship they have. She observes them, as she notes that Rosti is too close to William, so she realizes that her date has been ruined. They return to the plaza, where William realizes that Colette appears to be upset, and he wonders if something's wrong. So she asks him about Rosti, telling him they appear to have a weird relationship, and she wonders if he's actually a girl. So William confirms that Rosti is a guy, but mentions he's always been a bit weird. He gives them drinks, and he sits beside William, who wonders why he doesn't have one, so he says he will just share with him. Colette offers to give him her drink, but he stares at her, and he tells William to get his sword maintained without them. But he becomes confused, so she explains that dwarves don't like seeing mages at their forge, saying it's better if he goes alone. He walks away, and she asks Rosti if he likes William, so he tells her he loves him more than anyone. She mentions that she used to hug him until 4 years ago, but Rosti reveals that he takes a bath with him every night, telling her to imagine what they get up to. We cut to William, who realizes that Rosti and Colette are acting strange, thinking they don't like each other. Liana suddenly calls him, and he recognizes her as Miss Perfect, knowing she earned all the credits in the 3 subjects. She tells him to follow her, saying she needs to talk to him, and she takes him to a room, where he sees the other top students with Xian. She mentions that it's almost time for the all-student praxis, and she wants to form a party with all of them, but Xian and Julius are against her idea, because they don't like William. He wonders why she brought him there, because everyone knows that they hate him, but he realizes that she's completely clueless. Xian grabs onto him, but Wignall transforms their surroundings, as he mentions that mages aren't barbarians. So Xian releases William, who notes that Wignall used illusion magic to summon a fantasy landscape, and he knows that it can only be used by elves. Wignall suggests listening to Liana, and she tells them she wants to form a party with them, because they're the best mages in the school. She mentions that William stood out the most at the festival, thinking he has something they lack, which can help them in the dungeon. But Julius thinks he will only slow them down, because he can't even use magic, and Xian doesn't want him to join the party. But Wignall reminds them that they lost to him, so they don't have the right to look down on him. Julius tells Wignall that Liana has more credits than him, and he admits that it's true, but he explains that this is the reason why he respects her opinion, saying she's nothing like the two of them. She explains that she wants to use them to ascend the tower as the top student, because she wants to attain fame and honor, so William wonders if she didn't get scouted. She reveals that the Thunder faction reached out to her, so he wonders why she still wants to ascend the tower, because she already has a guaranteed post-graduation placement. So she explains that everyone in her family has a short lifespan, and she wants to achieve overwhelming results, so that she can bring honor to her family before she dies. She reveals that she wants to become a Magia, and she knows that everyone has ambitions, so she tells them to drop their coin in a goblet if her proposal will benefit them. Wignall agrees to join her, thinking their party will be able to achieve the best results, and Julius also decides to join, because he wants to earn more credits. Xion drops his coin into the goblet without saying a word, and William takes his time to think about it, but he ultimately decides to join the party. After that, we see Rosti and Colette searching for William, and they see him approaching, so they ask him why he wasn't in the forge. But he walks past them, telling them he'll be joining Liana's party for the all-student praxis. The next day, Werkner tells everyone that the event will begin in 10 days, and he mentions that floors 7 to 10 will be unlocked, so the students can hunt high-credit monsters. He mentions that the event will be the only opportunity to earn more than 1,000 credits at once, and he tells everyone about the floor keepers, saying they'll earn a large number of credits by defeating them. But Edward mentions that they could die, as he reveals that 4 students were eaten by monsters last year, so he tells them not to be reckless, saying they need to know their limits. We see everyone gathering at a base on the 6th floor, as Liana wonders why Colette decided to join the party, so she explains that she just wants to be with William. Rosti explains that he can't join them, but William tells him it's okay, thanking him for his magic items. The event is about to begin, as Edward tells everyone that they need to survive in the dungeon for 1 week, and we learn that there are base camps on each floor, which are marked on everyone's maps. They prepare to dive deeper into the dungeon, but we see a mysterious man who's searching for something in the dungeon. His companion kills another man, so he realizes the event has begun and they will need to slaughter everybody to complete their mission. The Praxis event begins, and Wignall uses his wind magic, pushing them off a cliff, but they slow down before landing. They are immediately attacked by a swarm of crimson ants, so William thinks he needs to be the party's shield, since mages are weak at close combat, but Wignall tells him not to worry, because Liana's family magic specializes in fighting up close, and she tells them they need to get ahead, so they don't compete with the other parties for credits. We go back to a class with Werkner, as he teaches William about the most important spell in the dungeon, telling him that it's the search spell, because it allows them to detect their enemies. We see William struggling to fight, because the others are able to detect the monsters before him, and Julius tells him he's getting in the way. He manages to kill an ant, but Wignall takes the rest out with a single spell. He questions Liana's judgment for bringing William, but she thinks he will be more useful once they reach the tougher monsters. We see Julius absorbing the magical traces with his wand, which is a record of the battle and how they get credits for the kills, but William needs to collect drops as his proof since he can't absorb the traces, which makes the others look down on him. Colette wonders if he's okay, but he tries to stay positive. The group continues to kill monsters, and he realizes there's nothing he can do, so he starts to feel useless. Liana notes it's been a day since they started, so she decides they should rest, and Wignall uses his illusion magic to create flames around them to ward off any monsters. William hands everyone some food, but Wignall tells him to leave it on the ground, noting that elves only allow people they deem worthy to touch them, and he has only acknowledged Liana. Colette thinks he's being rude, but William decides to respect his customs. Liana reminds them of their goal, which is to take out the Nabarus, the boss on the 10th floor, which is worth 110 credits by itself. She wants to show the tower what they are capable of, and she tells them to conserve their mana while they take the shortest path to it. Meanwhile, we see the mysterious duo, as they continue to kill monsters and everyone in their way. As the group continues to the 10th floor, Julius notices that all the monsters have already been defeated, but Wignall notes that there can't be any other parties ahead of them, and William sees that they were defeated with force instead of magic. They make it to the boss room, but are shocked to find that the Nabarus has also been killed, so they all use their search spell and realize it was only just defeated. We learn that even though the search spell is important, it can struggle with detecting traps, and mages are also able to use hide to counter it. But William relies on his senses, and he detects a creature above them. It fires a blast of energy at him, blowing him away, and the monster gets behind Wignall, taking him out instantly. The others try to react, but the monster crushes the ground, causing them all to fall, and William tries to get to Wignall, while everyone in the dungeon feels it shake. We see William manage to get to Wignall, but he sees he's in terrible condition. William realizes they're on the 11th floor, and we learn that it's outside of the Academy's area, and is considered a danger zone that only the tower mages can survive. Liana notes they are in the Nightmare's Maw, and the power of the monsters is on a completely different level, so they need to find the others before they all die. We see Wignall in a dream, as the other elves look down on him for being weak, and he's cast away by the Elf Queen. He wakes up as William defeats a giant serpent, but when William tries to help him, he slaps his hand away, refusing to be touched, but William insists on helping him, even if he tries to come after him in the future. Wignall ends up treating himself, and William checks his supplies, noting that they have enough to survive for 24 hours at the most. He tells Wignall they need to find the others, but Wignall mentions the protocol is to stay put and wait to be rescued, but William mentions the monster on the floor above, so it's unlikely they will get help in time. We see everyone panicking on the 8th floor, as Worker contacts another professor named Eliza. She mentions there's a stampede, and their camp was destroyed by monsters, so Worker asks about the other professors, but she mentions they were all found dead, with their heads ripped off, and she hasn't heard anything from the lower floors. Worker realizes something is going on, and Edward comes rushing to him, telling him that the Praxis event has been cancelled, and they need to help the students. We see William and Wignall looking around, but Wignall spams his search spell. William tells him he should save his mana, but he's scared of getting attacked again. William explains that the search spell is based on distance, so repeatedly using it won't do anything, telling Wignall he needs to trust him. Wignall wonders how he can be so calm in their situation, but he notes that for him to get to the tower, his only option to get his credits was from the Praxis, so he spent all his time and effort to learn about it. Kiki alerts them of monsters, and they realize they are surrounded, so they know they need to fight. William rushes at the two in front, and Wignall blasts the one behind, but he's surprised by how strong William is, thinking he doesn't compare. The pig behind him gets back up, and he knows he can't counterattack in time, so he uses his fire illusion to buy time, but it doesn't work, and he's about to get eaten, but William saves him just in time. William notes that the pigs don't have eyes and rely on their sense of smell, so illusions don't work on them. Wignall thinks he's a disgrace, and William tries to cheer him up, telling him he's talented, but he reveals it's not true, and that he's actually considered a failure. He reveals that the other elves have already advanced to the tower, and he's the only one who's still at the academy after 6 years, because he lacks talent, saying the elves call him a disgrace. He reveals that illusion magic is supposed to have physical form, but his illusions can't harm anyone, because he can't master it no matter how hard he tries. William reminds him that he's one of the top students, but he explains that they're inferior to other mages, saying the students who are still in the academy are just leftovers. We cut to Liana, as she explains that true geniuses don't need to go through the graduation process, because they can advance by inventing new spells, or getting scouted at the festival. She mentions that she isn't as talented as them, saying she's just one of the leftovers, so Colette reminds her that everyone in the academy calls her Miss Perfect, but she thinks she's just a big fish in a small pond. She reveals that she saw a first-year student become a magia, saying she's nowhere near as talented as her, and Colette realizes she's talking about Alferia. She tells Liana that she knows a boy who has no talent for magic, but he's been working hard to get stronger, even when everyone's bullying him, and Colette thinks he will laugh if he hears Liana mocking herself. We return to Wignall, as he tells William about his foster sister Eleanor, saying they grew up together, and he taught her how to use spells. But he immediately learned that her magic was on another level, because she's a high elf. Everyone learned about her talent, so she was taken away, and she became a magia, while Wignall trained to improve his magic, because he wanted to be with her. But he's still nowhere near her level, so he thinks he's pathetic. But William realizes they're similar, and Wignall thinks he's just trying to make him feel better, telling William to leave him behind. But he tells Wignall that he's an incredible elf, promising to protect him until he gets back on his feet. They start fighting a group of monsters, and Wignall notes that they're all worth over 5 credits, but William slices them into pieces, as Wignall wonders how he's able to defeat them so easily. He asks Wignall if he's okay, and he wonders why William is protecting him, so he explains that it's because Wignall is a great elf. Kiki suddenly alerts them as William mentions that he hears a strange sound, so Wignall uses his search spell, but he doesn't find anything. William thinks monsters are about to spawn, and a creature suddenly appears, and it starts filling the room with water, and it releases fire spirits. He knows that they're bad news, and he uses his grenades to destroy the creature. Wignall asks him about the monsters, so he reveals that they're called Balkar, and they're immune to physical attacks. He adds that they have high magic resistance, and the only way to defeat them is to use elven illusion magic, so he needs Wignall's help. But he explains that he can't do it, saying his illusion magic isn't perfect, and he starts crying, thinking he's going to fail again. But William tells him it's okay to fail, because they're not geniuses, so they can't move forward without failing. He thinks William is going to die if he fails, but he assures Wignall that he's going to be fine, saying he won't die, because Elfaria is waiting for him in the tower. The monsters attack them, but he protects Wignall, and he charges in, cutting one of the monster's legs. But it immediately regenerates, as Wignall realizes that William's attacks are working, so he needs to use his magic to save him. He summons wind to attack, but it has no physical form, and it doesn't affect the monsters, so he becomes worried, thinking William is going to die because of him. The monsters try to burn William, but Kiki defends him, and he tells Wignall not to give up, saying he believes in him. Wignall recalls that the elves saw him as a failure, but he realizes that William is counting on him, and he refuses to give up on his dream to be with Eleanor. So he decides to try again, as he attacks the monsters with his spell, and he manages to destroy them, covering the area with trees. William is happy that he was able to do it, but he realizes that Wignall is kneeling before him. He apologizes for being rude to him, saying he respects him as a warrior, and William admits that he also respects Wignall, because he knows he's been training hard to get stronger. After that, William uses the map that Rosti gave him, as Wignall realizes that he wasn't walking around aimlessly. Kiki remembers the scent of their companions, and she helps William find them, pointing him to where they are. We see Julius with Xion, as he starts looking for water, but Xion reminds him that they have limited supplies, telling him to use his ice magic to create water. But he becomes upset, telling Xion they need to save their magic, because they need to keep using their search spell, and they start arguing, as Julius realizes that they're incompatible. He uses his search spell, and he doesn't detect anything, but Xion suddenly pulls him away, saying he can sense enemies approaching. He reminds Julius that demons can escape search detection, and several evil sentinels appear, as Julius wonders why they're gathering there, thinking it has something to do with the monster on the 10th floor. Xion tells him to use his clones, as he prepares to fight them, and Julius thinks he's insane, saying there's too many of them. But Xion mentions that he was humiliated because of them, and he summons his phoenix to burn all of them. We see that the camp on the 7th floor is being attacked by evil sentinels, so the students run for their lives, but one of them falls, and he's about to get crushed to death. But Edward summons his chains to eliminate the monsters, and he orders the students to evacuate to the 6th floor. Worker arrives riding a dragon, and he takes Edward with him, as the students realize that he's amazing, because he's sky racing in the dungeon. He reveals that the other students have been evacuated, saying only Liana's party made it past the 8th floor. Edward thinks they're trying to defeat the floorkeeper on the 10th floor, and he thinks finding them is going to be difficult. But Worker reveals that he knows where they are, because his orb is linked to Kiki's crystal, saying they're already on the 11th floor. We return to Colette, as she leaves stones on the ground, and we learn that it's been 16 hours since they fell to the 11th floor. She notes that they're running out of food and water, and they don't have a chance to rest, because monsters keep appearing, so Liana has already reached her limit. She blames herself for what's happening, thinking she put everyone in danger because she was too ambitious. But Colette mentions that nobody expected the monster to appear on the 10th floor, and she tells Liana not to blame herself, reminding her that she decided to tag along even though she wasn't invited. William and Wignall detect mages nearby, and they realize that Xion was able to defeat the sentinels. Wignall can't believe he was able to wipe them out, but Julius reveals that he sacrificed his clones to help him. Wignall asks Julius about the girls, and he mentions that he doesn't know where they are, so William realizes they're still alone. We return to Colette, as she sees a man approaching, and she recognizes him as one of her teachers. But his head suddenly falls off, and he greets everyone as his companion appears, asking him how the students got there, because he was supposed to kill them while they were on the upper floors. so he explains that he sent a monster to eliminate them, but they were able to survive when they encountered it, because it ended up destroying the floor. Colette realizes that the men killed their professors, asking them who they are, so the man tells her that they're there to destroy the fake sky, and the girls realize they're planning to bring calamity to the world by destroying the enormous barrier created by the Magia. The man tries to decapitate them, but William suddenly arrives with the others, saying they followed the stones on the ground. He charges in, but the man blows him away, and he mentions that he wants to add their heads to his collection. But his companion drags him away, telling him they need to leave, so he summons a monster to get rid of them. A gate appears above them as the monster from the 10th floor appears, and William recognizes it as an evil Grand Duke, which is worth 270 credits. We learn about the 1000th rule, which is the conversion formula that the tower uses for the credit system, where 1 credit is assigned to a monster that is as powerful as a mage with 1000 credits. By using that formula, William realizes that the Duke is equal to a mage with 270,000 credits. It blasts them with an energy beam, which destroys everything around them, and Julius realizes that it's ridiculously powerful. Liana tells everyone to retreat, so they start running away, as Wignall uses his illusion magic to stop the Duke. But it tears through his magic, and it's about to kill him, but William saves him, and they're able to escape with the others. Colette realizes that the Duke is overpowered, and William reveals that he has read about it, saying it's a greater demon from the 25th floor. Xian wonders if they were able to outrun it, but William explains that it's still searching for them, and Julius realizes that there are countless monsters in the area, so William explains that the Duke ordered the lesser demons to hunt them down. Xian realizes that the Duke caused the mass outbreak of Sentinels, and Julius starts to wonder if they will be able to make it back alive. Liana notes that the situation is hopeless, and she thinks they're all doomed, but William mentions that they just need to defeat the Duke. He explains that the lesser demons are establishing a domain across the other floors, because the Duke is on the 11th floor, but he mentions that they will lose their chain of command once it's defeated, so they will become disorganized, and he thinks they might be able to escape if this happens. Julius thinks they don't stand a chance against the Duke, but William explains that he has a plan, saying he needs everyone's help to execute it. Julius thinks nobody will support him, but Wignall explains that he believes in William because he saved his life countless times. Colette mentions that she trusts William because he knows the dungeon better than anyone else, and Xian explains that he'd rather fight than stay hidden. Wignall tells Liana to trust William, so she admits that she was wrong about him, saying he deserves to be their leader because he's the only one who hasn't been crushed by despair, telling him they will obey his orders. Julius thinks they can't win with William's plan, but he tells Julius he's right, saying they're going to fail without him because they need his powers to execute the plan. So William begs him to help them, saying he will teach him the secret of Alfaria's spell. They decide to fight the Duke, and it starts blasting them, but they jump away, and Julius starts chanting his ultimate spell as his clones surround the Duke. We learn that William told him that his clones allow him to carry on incantations, saying he can continue chanting even after a clone has been destroyed. So he can use it to help him cast advanced spells, which require long incantations. The Duke destroys his clones, but he comes out of hiding, and he continues chanting as the Duke prepares to kill him, but his companions use their spells to attack the Duke. They realize that their attacks didn't work, and William strikes from above, but it doesn't do anything, as he notes that the Duke has Iron Curtain wings, which protects it from damage. So their attacks won't work against it, but he knows that they just need to act as decoys until Julius finishes casting his spell. He summons countless icicles, and they hit the Duke, but it's still standing, so everyone becomes worried. But we learn that William knew this was going to happen, so he told Liana to deliver the finishing blow while the Duke is trying to recover. She charges in with ridiculous speed, and she aims for the Duke's core, but a barrier protects it, so she becomes confused, wondering if the mysterious duo placed the barrier before they left. The Duke launches a counterattack, so William saves her, and Kiki protects them with her barrier, but it shatters, and his goggles end up breaking. Wertner and Edward watch the incident, and Wertner wonders what a Duke is doing on the 11th floor, but Edward tells him they don't have time to think, saying they need to hurry. William and Liana start falling, so Wignall uses his magic to help them land safely, and he asks Liana if they're okay, so she tells him she's fine, but she's worried about William because he protected her with his body. The Duke prepares to attack them, so Liana tells everyone to retreat with William, saying she will buy time for them to escape. She thinks she failed everyone, since she wasn't able to deliver the finishing blow, and she reveals that the members of her family die early because they put their lives on the line to protect their comrades. Wignall decides to join her, saying he wants to protect William, and they charge in, as Liana uses her magic to attack the Duke. Wignall restrains it with his spell, and she prepares to stab its core, but it suddenly blows them away. Xian realizes they're no match for the Duke, thinking they're going to die, and he doesn't want them to die in vain, so he thinks about retreating with William. But he suddenly tells Xian to punch him, because he won't stop shaking, saying he's useless without the goggles Elfariat gave him. He mentions that he's scared, so Xian becomes upset, reminding him that he was the one who led them there, and he starts beating him up, as he mentions that Liana and Wignall are about to die. He blames William for everything that's happening, but he suddenly stops Xian, saying he has finally stopped shaking, and he thanks him for helping him regain his composure. He tells Colette to take care of Kiki, and he charges at the Duke, as Xian wonders what's wrong with him, thinking he isn't scared at all. But Colette explains that he's always been afraid, because he's fighting with a sword, so he has no choice but to charge at his opponents, even when they're stronger than him. She mentions that he's a coward, but he doesn't flee from battle, because he's scared of running away. She thinks he's courageous, and she decides to help him, as Xian feels pathetic, because he thought about retreating. William dodges the Duke's attacks, thinking they won't be able to defeat it unless they get rid of its wings. Colette joins the battle, and he notes that Liana and Wignall have already reached their limit, so he needs to defeat the Duke with Colette. We learn that he's scared because he doesn't have his goggles, but he's even more afraid of losing the people who are close to him, so he decides to fight on. He gives Colette the signal, and the Duke fires countless beams to attack him, but he knows how to counter it because he has seen it before. He suddenly disappears, and Colette realizes he's preparing to attack the Duke, so she uses her magic to give him a stone blade, and he uses it to cut the Duke's wing. So it becomes angry, but Xian suddenly appears, and he starts chanting as he rides his phoenix. The Duke manages to destroy his phoenix, but he jumps down, and he blasts it with his ultimate spell, but the Duke endures it, and everyone can't believe his spell didn't work. They realize that a wand can't defeat the Duke, and William notes that his sword isn't strong enough. But he suddenly sees a crystal, and we see Rosti watching him from a distance, hoping the crystal will help him remember something important. He recalls a mysterious woman who was raising a baby, and she mentioned that wand and sword will come together to protect the world. So he realizes that he might be able to defeat the Duke if he combines magic with his sword, and he tells Xian to cast his spell. So he summons his flames, as William strikes it, absorbing it into his sword. Everyone can't believe what they're seeing, realizing that his sword is clad in flames, and he charges at the Duke, as he notes that he feels a mysterious power flowing through his body. The Duke continues to attack him, but he's able to cut through its magic, and he delivers the finishing blow. The Duke is burnt to pieces, and William's sword returns to normal, but he wonders about the power he was able to use. The others can't believe he was able to kill the Duke, but all the other monsters suddenly come rushing at them. They all have no more strength to fight, and Julius is about to be killed. Werkner realizes they won't make it in time, but the monsters are suddenly caught by a spell, and they're all taken out in an instant. William wonders what happened, and they see that it was Masterius, the king of the Magia, who saved them. He tells them that they fought well, and everyone bows to him in respect. One of his subordinates jumps down, surprised that the sword is still alive, and he introduces himself to William as Finn. Meanwhile, we see the mysterious duo with a sword, as they mention they successfully managed to complete their mission, and they're glad they didn't run into Masterius. The Praxis event comes to an end, and we learn that there were 11 professors that were killed. Wignall wonders about the duo, and Julius wonders what would have happened if Masterius hadn't saved them. Liana is glad they survived, and she thanks all of them for being in the party, but her stomach suddenly growls, so Colette gives her an apple, but she keeps eating and asking for more, so Colette can't believe how much she eats. But she claims it's because of her close combat magic that uses up more energy, but Colette doesn't buy it, thinking she's just a fatty. Liana goes on to praise William, thinking they all would have died without him, but he says he couldn't have done it without everyone working together. Julius reminds them how William almost got them killed, but Colette quickly stuffs an apple in his mouth. Shion wonders about the power that William used at the end, thinking it was insane, but Liana isn't sure if it was even magic, and William doesn't really know what it was. He remembers Finn from the dungeon, and Liana mentions she has read about a special tribe that can't use magic, but they have accumulated generations of knowledge about the dungeon, and since the time of the Mage Queen, they have served as guides for the dungeon, and William finds him somehow familiar. We see Finn meeting with Cauldron, and he mentions they made it to the 49th floor. He reveals a broken sword, and Cauldron wonders if it's a mage slayer. Finn mentions they ran into a shady group on the 40th floor, and even 20 of their high mages were killed, so he warns her to be careful, because there's something being planned behind the scenes. He leaves the sword for her to analyze, and he moves on to asking about William, telling her that swords are under his jurisdiction, but she mentions that William chose himself to climb the tower to become a magia, and Finn thinks it's unheard of for a sword to want to become a wand, but he decides to allow it, but he mentions he will also be getting involved. We see William get back to his training, and Colette wonders how he can move already when everyone else is still injured, but he mentions that all he can do is keep moving forward. The others watch him from their room, wondering if he's built different, but Shion suddenly jumps out, telling William to fight him. William tells him not to push himself, but Shion reminds him that he promised they would have a proper fight after the Grand Festival, so William agrees, and they continue things from where they left off. The teachers check the test papers, and they're impressed that William got a perfect score in all the subjects so far, thinking he might ascend to the tower even though he can't use magic. Worker is glad he's doing well, and Professor Eliza tells him his student's dream is about to come true, but he notes that there's still one subject that William needs to pass. She wants to know how he's doing, so Worker activates his crystal ball, and they see him in the library. They realize he's exhausted since he's been pulling all-nighters, but he's determined to pass the last subject, so he doesn't stop studying. Colette reminds him that he just defeated an Aberrus, but he notes that he couldn't have done it without his friends, and explains that he doesn't want their kindness to go to waste. He reveals that he got spellwork credits from his lesson with Edward, and explains that he just needs to pass one more test to ascend to the tower, so he can't let his guard down. Rosti suddenly pulls out a strand of his hair, and tells him his hair will turn gray if he works too hard, but Rosti notices Colette's reaction, which makes him think she wants to do it as well. Cauldron gives Julius and Shion their wands, and we learn that they helped William and his friends defeat the Nabarus, but Shion mocks Julius since he wasn't useful during the fight. He notes that Shion was also carried by William, so they start to argue, and Cauldron realizes they just can't leave William alone. Wignall and Liana discuss how they've already completed their praxis credits, and Wignall recalls how William taught him it's okay to fail as many times as it takes, while Liana notes that he also taught her to overcome her weaknesses. That evening, Colette visits William in the library, and notes that she brought snacks for him, but she realizes he's already asleep. She covers him with a blanket, but she becomes flustered when she sees his lips, and she thinks about kissing him. Rosti suddenly asks her what she's doing, so she realizes he saw everything, and he starts to tease her. She admits that she's worried about William, since he always gets hurt, but he still doesn't stop pushing himself. She notes that she hates the Magia, since he's working hard to reach Elfaria's level, but she does nothing to help him, and just waits at the top of the tower. We see Elfaria with her assistant Sarissa, who notices there's something bothering her, but Eleanor wonders why she came out of her room, since she does nothing but waste time there. She thinks Eleanor is angry since she lost to her in a magic competition, but she explains that it's because they were restricted to ice magic, and claims she would have destroyed Elfaria if she went all out. A Magia named Zio suddenly interrupts them, but they tell him to leave and call him a barbarian. Elfaria wonders what he's doing there, so he explains that he needs to prepare for the Terminalia ritual, since the Great Barrier is about to disappear. The next day, the students prepare for the magic history exam, but they're worried since Edward will serve as their proctor, and they know that his tests are extremely difficult. Edward joins them in the room, and as he gives them their test papers, he notes that he only has one question for the exam. As the students read the question, they realize it's about the activation and prerequisites for magic, which they perform unconsciously, and they just need to put it into words to pass the exam. William's friends have no problem answering it, since they know how to use magic, but William falls into despair, since it's not something he can learn from a book. He thinks he's doomed since he can't use magic, but he refuses to give up on his dreams, so he still does his best to answer the question. He writes that magic is aspiration, and notes that it's a miracle he can't grasp, but he still believes he can get stronger if he continues to work hard. After that, Wertner confronts Edward about the exam, but he explains that he just asked the students about the most important foundation for a mage, and reveals that 40% of them failed the test. Wertner tells him that that isn't the issue, and notes that the question was directed at William, but Edward pushes him back, and explains that people who can't use magic have no place in the tower. He notes that a sword can never become a wand, and we see that William failed the exam, but Edward thinks he did him a favor, since he wants him to give up on his dream that will never come true. At night, Rusty tells William he has finished repairing his goggles, but William notes that Edward gave him a question he could never answer, and he starts to cry. So Rusty cheers him up, and notes that he'll always be there for him. William's friends look for him, but they can't find him anywhere, and Julius thinks he left since he couldn't ascend to the tower. He calls William a disgrace, so Wignall tells him to take it back, but Julius explains that magic is everything in this world, and notes that a sword doesn't belong in the academy. He wonders why Xian isn't happy that William failed, so he explains that he always wanted to defeat him, but it's all in the past now. Wertner suddenly joins them, and Colette tells him they're looking for William, but he tells them to go while he takes care of it, and reminds them it's almost time for Terminalia. A high mage named Clary announces the start of the festival and introduces herself as the announcer. She reveals that she's single, which is why she's jealous when she sees happy families, and she explains that they're about to restore the Great Barrier protecting the sky. She notes that a long time ago, the people didn't know of the sky, and the world was locked in darkness. The celestial host destroyed the world and took countless lives, but the founder of the tower, Sades, worked with the Magia to seal the sky, forcing the host to retreat. Iris knows that the barrier is only effective for a year, which is why the Magia summons a new one when everyone celebrates the new year. A member of the fire faction named Raj reports that there's nothing unusual on the ground, and his friend notes that there are no abnormalities in the air either, so Iris thinks they're ready for the ritual. The Magia appear before the crowd, and everyone raises their wands, as the Magia combine their powers to restore the barrier. Clary wishes everyone a happy new year, but countless gates suddenly appear, and there are monsters that descend from the sky. They start to go on a rampage, and as they set the city on fire, the mysterious duo thinks that the timing is perfect, since the Magia just used up all their magic to restore the barrier. Raj and his men help the civilians evacuate, and they combine their flames to attack a monster, while Clary summons her guardians to push the other monsters back. William's friends are amazed by their power, and they realize that high mages are on another level, but the monster survives Raj's attack. He continues to blast it with his fire, but it has no effect, and it cuts him in half. Clary realizes it nullified Raj's magic, and it rushes toward her, so she flies away, but she can't believe it's using a mage slayer. The mages in the academy start to panic, since they know the tower guards are struggling against the monsters, and Cauldron realizes that the mage slayer Finn brought her has been mass-produced. They tell her to send reinforcements to the city, but she orders them to defend the tower instead, since she knows that it's the enemy's real target. We see the Magia in the tower, where they discuss what to do next, and a man named Logwell suggests sending reinforcements to the city. But Masterius explains that the Magia must not leave the tower, since the Great Barrier will be destroyed if one of them falls. The mysterious duo realizes the Magia didn't take the bait, but they decide to just enjoy the carnage, and we see a girl trying to save her mother, but a monster suddenly approaches her. Iris attacks it with her light magic, but it gets nullified, and the monster prepares to kill the girl, but William suddenly cuts its arm off. He thinks about how cruel the world is, since everyone shunned him just because he can't use magic, but he still doesn't want it to be destroyed by monsters. He cuts down the monsters in his path, and Rusty tells him to focus on the ones with swords, since the mages can take down the others. William clashes with another monster and manages to overpower it, so Iris realizes they can defeat the mage slayers as long as he's around. Masterius tells her to call the dwarves to action, so she lifts the ban on combat by dwarves, and tells the mages to coordinate with them to save the city. Wertner runs to the dwarves, and begs them to join the fight, and they're determined to save William and the others. Edward tells his students to focus on the unarmed monsters, but they aren't sure if they can do anything, since even the high mages are struggling against them. Liana electrocutes the monsters around her, but realizes she can't defeat them in a single hit, and she jumps away when she sees a mage slayer. Wignall realizes that even his illusion magic is no match for the Mage Slayer, and Julius suggests retreating, but Xion notices that the monsters slow down after they dispel magic. They decide to spam their magic to pin them down, and Xion gives Colette the signal, so she uses her earth magic to lift a giant statue, which crushes the monsters as it falls. Wignall realizes the Mage Slayer couldn't nullify it since it didn't carry magic, and Liana tells the Earth Mages they can defeat the monsters, which gives them hope. Clary is impressed by their tactics, and the Fire faction holds the monsters back as the dwarves join the fight. The mysterious duo is impressed that their monsters are getting pushed back, and they discuss how their plan was ruined because one of their Mage Slayers were found. They had to jump on their plan without equipping it on all the monsters, since the mages had already seen their hand, but they're excited to see the special treat. William notices a gate, which brings forth a powerful monster, and it suddenly sends him flying. We see a man running for his life, but Finn takes him down and asks him about the Mage Slayer. The man tells him it's too late and notes that his mission was to lure him there, so Finn finishes him off. William gets back up, but the monster continues to attack him, and he realizes it's stronger than the Grand Duke. Clary recognizes it as a Devander, a notorious monster from the 40th floor, which has killed previous generations of Magia. The mysterious duo mentions how they sacrificed 50 of their men just to capture it, but they think it was worth it, since it will destroy the city for them. William blocks its attack, but realizes he doesn't stand a chance, since it's far stronger than he is. It pushes him back, and prepares to kill 2 other students, but he protects them and tells them to run. It kicks him away and smashes him to the ground, but Donan suddenly arrives with the dwarves, and tells him to lead it to them. Iris orders the mages to launch a combined attack after the dwarves destroy its Mage Slayer, but its core suddenly starts to absorb the energy of the defeated monsters, so the dwarves quickly charge at it. But the mysterious duo gets in the way, forcing them to watch as the Devander finishes absorbing the other monsters, and it takes on a new form. It shoots out spikes to take out the dwarves, and the duo thinks it's unstoppable, since both the mages and dwarves are no match for it. It takes out everything in its path, and William can't believe how powerful it is, thinking the only way to defeat it is to use the power that he used against the Duke. Rosti calls out to him and prepares to enchant his sword, but the Devander suddenly gets in the way and cuts off Rosti's arm. William goes berserk, and he attacks the Devander head-on, but it easily overpowers him. Rosti tells Kiki to go to Colette and promises to protect her master, so she quickly runs off, and he thinks he already knows what to do. As William continues to clash with the Devander, he realizes he can't defeat it no matter how hard he tries, and it sends him crashing against the wall. He thinks it's all over for him, and the Devander prepares to finish him off, but Rosti sacrifices himself to save William. He tells William he'll always be by his side, and disappears before his eyes, and William cries for him as he falls. Werkner catches him and flies away, but we see that William dropped his sword, and he can't believe Rosti is dead. The Magia watch the events unfold, and Zio decides to join the fight, since he wants to help the people in the city, but Carriot reminds him that the Great Barrier will disappear if one of them falls. He explains that if that happens, the celestial host will destroy the world, so they should wait for their magical energy to recover before they take any actions. Zio refuses to listen to him, so he threatens to stop Zio by force, and they prepare to fight, while Eleanor's assistant Lafia asks her what she wants to do. She notes that she'll remain a spectator, but her other assistant Phildus shows her that Wignall is in the city, so she tells Phildus to help him. Elfaria also wants to help William, so she tells Masterius to cancel his order, but he refuses to change his mind, so she unleashes her power and even threatens him if he tries to stop her. We return to Werkner, as he realizes that William is their only hope, since the Devander's arrival caused their front line to collapse, but he cries as he starts to question his abilities. He thinks he isn't strong enough to protect anyone since he can't use magic, and he screams as he recalls how he's suffered because of his lack of talent. He wonders why he's the only one who can't use magic, and Werkner tells him to pull himself together, but the mysterious assassin suddenly gets in their way. He senses that William is a threat, so he decides to take them out and launches his knives toward them. We cut to Wignall as a monster prepares to attack him from behind, and Colette saves him, but they suddenly see an explosion in the distance. She sees Kiki, who stares at the explosion, and Colette realizes William is in danger, so she rushes to look for him. She runs past Xian, who decides to follow her, and tells the others to take care of themselves. Wignall and Liana order Julius to make his ice clones, but he gets angry at them ordering him around. The headless man enjoys watching the carnage, and he wants to hunt people's heads, but he knows that he needs to stick to his role as conductor, and launches a dark arrow toward the tower. The Devander sees it and starts to follow it, but Clary realizes it's approaching the heart of the city, so she prepares to cast her spells to stop it, but it suddenly blows her up. Edward tells the dwarves to put their lives on the line, and explains that they must destroy the Devander's mage slayer at all costs, but Gina becomes angry, and asks him if he's telling them to die. He tells her it's the only way to protect the children, but a monster suddenly attacks her from above, so he runs to save her, but ends up getting injured. He blasts it away, but she wonders why he risked his life to save her, so he explains that his life is worthless, since they're fighting an enemy that's immune to magic. He once again begs the dwarves to lay down their lives, so Gina tells her men to gather and protect the city center at all costs. Colette and Xian take out the monsters in their path, but the Devander suddenly appears before them, so Colette attacks it with her earth magic, but it has no effect, and her bracelet malfunctions. We see that the battle has turned into a disaster, since most of the high mages have fallen, and the lightning faction holds the monsters at bay, while the civilians retreat to the south. The authorities order the mages to resist to the bitter end, and Rose sees a group of monsters, so she thinks it's all over for her, but she wants to see Colette one last time. One of the students that William saved fights a monster, and his friend tells him they need to escape, but he explains that he wants to do his part, and they start to argue. They panic as a monster suddenly appears, but Eliza destroys it with her magic and orders them to transport the wounded. As they leave, there are more monsters that appear behind her, but she impales them with her magic, and thinks she needs to look after her students. Iris receives countless reports that the battle has gone south, so she falls into despair and thinks it's all over for them. But she suddenly hears an explosion, and Finn takes William's sword, asking her if she knows where to find him. We see that the assassin shot down the wyvern, and William survives the crash, but he realizes that Werkner is mortally wounded. Werkner tells him he's the only one who can save the city, but he isn't sure if he can do it, since he can't even protect the people who are important to him. He thinks he isn't strong enough to change the world, and he starts to cry, but Werkner hugs him and admits that he's been lying to him. He explains that William can use magic, and prepares to tell him about the only spell he can use, but he suddenly stops, so William thinks he's dead. Finn suddenly appears, and assures him that Werkner will be fine, but tells him he needs to get back on his feet, since the stage has been set for him. Finn notes that while William can't use the 4 elements, his power comes from his emotions, and he explains that it's so powerful that it can turn fantasy into reality. William thinks a childish trick like that would never work, but Finn tells him to believe in himself, since he can't change the world if he can't even transform. Finn plants his sword in the ground, and tells him to remember his roots as he takes it, explaining that it's time to go on a journey to pass beyond the false sky. His blood falls on the sword, causing it to overflow with energy, and he tells William he already knows the name of his magic, so he should cry it out and bring it into being. He lifts his sword, and as he mentions the word courage, the energy flows into his body and removes his limiter. He starts running through the city, taking out the monsters in his path, and everyone can't believe what they're seeing, since he's clearing the city in a matter of seconds. Xian summons his phoenix, but the Devander instantly destroys it, so Colette tells him to run. He tells her that he'll never retreat, since he knows that William would do the same, and he refuses to lose to him. William suddenly arrives, and sees that the Devander is about to kill Xian, so he rushes to block the attack, causing a powerful shockwave as he pushes it back. In a flashback to the founder Sadie's, she mentions that the celestial stairway has been sealed, but it will only buy them time before the celestial host destroys the world. She tells Finn to take care of her baby, who will serve as their lone sword, and she forms a pact with him, telling him to produce someone who can use the 5th element. She notes that he must find a key that will tune this world, and he promises to find his way to the wand and sword, since it's the only way to save everyone. Back in the present, Finn wonders what will happen now that William has removed his limiter, and he hopes the pact he made with Sadie's will lead them to victory. William charges in and slashes the Devander, which sends it flying toward the academy, so Cauldron summons a barrier to stop it. She wonders what's going on, and sees William approaching, so she realizes he blew it away. The area explodes as he clashes with the Devander, and William's friends know he's fighting to protect everyone, so they rush to his side. Julius doesn't want to go with them, but he doesn't want to be left alone, so he goes after them. Edward and the students know William caused the explosion, and they can't believe he can keep up with such an overpowered beast, while the Maggia are amazed by his bravery. Clary wakes up, and she's surprised that William can fight on even footing against the Devander, since it easily wiped her out. Edward is glad she's still alive, and she asks him about William, but he still can't acknowledge his strength. As the other students arrive, one of them named Emma wants to help out, but her friends tell her she would only get in William's way, and they think they have no right to stand by his side, since they bullied him for having no talent. Shion starts to cheer for him, and as his friends follow suit, their classmates realize William is their only hope, so they start to root for him as well. Edward thinks he'll lose since he can't use magic, but Clary notes that he hasn't changed at all, and tells him to believe in his student. The others also cheer for William, and as he continues to clash with the Devander, he recalls how he hated this world, since everyone mocked him for having no talent. But he always wanted them to acknowledge him, and he's determined to protect them at all costs. He strikes the Devander with all his might, but his sword suddenly breaks, since it can't handle his power. Everyone starts to worry about him, and Alferia realizes he's in trouble, so she decides to make her move. The other Maggia remind her they aren't allowed to leave the tower, but she explains that she's just watching from the balcony, and she suddenly summons an ice sword. It falls toward William, and creates a shockwave as it hits the ground, and he absorbs it into his sword. His friends are worried that it won't work, since the Devander is immune to magic, and as it rushes at him, William slashes it with his sword. His attack ignores the Mage Slayer, and makes the Devander bleed, so the assassin wonders what kind of magic he's using. The Maggia know he's using the fifth element, which is the primeval key that started the world, and Masterius realizes that Finn has fulfilled his promise to Sades. William freezes the Devander in place, but it breaks free, and counterattacks with lasers. But he freezes them before they can hit him, and his friends are impressed by his power, thinking it's like he's fighting with Alferia by his side. The Headless Man summons countless monsters to surround him, but he activates his overload skill, which summons an ice castle, and impales all of them in an instant. He causes them to shatter, and everyone's stunned by his overwhelming power. He extends his sword and cuts the Devander in half, causing it to freeze, and it shatters along with the castle. Everyone celebrates as they realize the fight is over, and Finn is happy that William turned out better than he could ever have imagined. He tells Sades it's time for him to make good on his pact, and notes that it took them 500 years to achieve their goal, but it's finally time for the tale of wand and sword to begin. We see Cauldron bringing William's power under control, but it seems some of his memories are altered in order to keep him stable. Meanwhile, Wertner wakes up in the infirmary, and Clary tells him he needs to value himself even if he can't die. Eliza also visits him, and she's glad to see he's fine, but Clary stops her from touching him, and they start to fight over him. Wertner suddenly asks about William, so Edward mentions that Cauldron is taking care of him, and tells him he should focus on resting instead. We see Iris giving her report about the incident to Masterius, and we learn that 3,000 people were killed or injured. The leaders behind the attack are still unknown, so Masterius orders for the repairs to be prioritized first. He also wonders why they didn't know about William sooner since he was at the academy, so Iris mentions that it was probably because Cauldron was hiding him until he could fully mature. Masterius is annoyed at her deciding things on her own, but notes that the sword should be entrusted to Finn going forward. Iris wonders what Masterius actually thinks about William, so he notes that if he's the sword from the Mage Queen's vow, everything will one day intersect. He suddenly summons the other Maggia, and he tells them they need to continue the investigation into the incident. He doesn't have any leads, so the other Maggia wonder if he's incompetent, but he mentions that the monsters that appeared gave him the same feeling as the heavenly destroyers that almost destroyed the world 10 years ago. Eleanor doesn't believe that the destroyers survived, since many of her people gave their lives to get rid of them. Zia wonders if she's scared, and remembers that she didn't take part in the battle 10 years ago, and he tells her to run back to her forest. Eleanor blasts him with her wind magic, but we see that he avoided it, and he prepares to fight back, but Masterius tells them to stop. Carriot notices Sarissa listening, and Eleanor wonders where Alferia is, since all of them were summoned, so she makes the excuse that Alferia wasn't feeling well. Meanwhile, we see Liana as she runs into Colette holding flowers, and she turns out to be paying her respects to Rosti. Liana wonders what he was like, but Colette mentions that she didn't really know him, since he was trying to become an artificer and had different classes, so she only remembers how she was jealous when he transferred into the academy and instantly started hanging out with William. Finn watches as the city starts to be repaired, but he runs into Iris, who warns him not to interfere with William, because if he gets involved, things will be advanced, and there's a certain person that won't be able to be stopped. But Finn doesn't care, and notes that since it's graduation, Cauldron won't be able to keep William from him anymore. In a flashback to a year earlier, we see Rosti as he asks William if he would be sad if one day he were no longer around. William is confused by what he's saying, so Rosti mentions that if having to say goodbye made him sad, he wonders if it would have been better if they had never met. William can't believe he would say that, since meeting him was one of the best things that ever happened to him. Rosti mentions how he might not be able to ascend the tower together with him, hoping that he won't be sad, but tells him that he will always be watching over him. The day of graduation arrives, and everyone makes their way to the auditorium. Cauldron starts by paying respects to the people that they lost, but tells everyone that it's only the beginning, so it's their duty to carry hope for the future. The ceremony begins, and Edward calls out all the students' names as he gives them their diplomas. There are 250 who graduate, and Cauldron goes on to announce the ones who will be ascending to the tower. Liana is called first as the valedictorian, with a perfect 12,000 credit points. Wignall comes in second, while Julius is third and Xian is fourth. Other students are called, and Colette makes it through with 9,000 credit points. 49 students make it to the tower by having enough credits, and everyone cheers for them, but Cauldron notes that there's one more person who will ascend. She mentions that besides gaining enough credits, the second condition to advance to the tower is by creating a new spell, and she calls out William's courage spell. Edward tries to object, and Cauldron knows that there will be people who disagree with her decision, so she asks for the people who acknowledge William's courage as magic to applaud. Everyone stays quiet, so William thinks it's over for him, but Xian suddenly starts to clap, and all the other students follow his lead. Everyone in the hall claps for him, so William is allowed to ascend to the tower. Edward can't believe the result, but it seems he was actually worried for William, thinking he will be thrown into despair after being teased with his dream, but Werkner thinks that he'll be able to overcome what comes next. Finn can't believe Cauldron's greed of keeping William, so he decides to keep watching for the time being. Cauldron calls them the Grim Generation, and although they will face many trials ahead, she hopes for them to stand strong. The ceremony comes to an end, and we see Elfaria watching, excited that William has finally reached her. We see William's friends in their new Gloria robes, and a man named Brandel notes that it was an honor to make their outfits. They're happy with the quality of their robes, but Colette notices that Julius is depressed, so Liana explains it's because everyone has been scouted by the elemental factions, but he still hasn't received an offer. Wignall wonders why William isn't with them, so Brandel reveals that he was there earlier, but he left in a hurry. Donan gives William a new sword, revealing that it's better than the last one he used, but he wonders how much he needs to pay for it. Donan notes that it's free, and explains that it's a thank you gift for saving the city, and he tells William to do his best in the tower. He joins the other graduates, and Clary welcomes them to the tower, but they wonder if she's really a high mage, since she doesn't look the part. She unlocks the gate to the first floor, which causes the ceiling to open, and a platform takes everyone to the colorless garden. They're amazed by how beautiful it is, since it looks like a fantasy world, and Clary reveals that the outsiders call it the Upper Institute. She explains that it serves as the tower's foundation, where high mages research and develop magic, and the other mages consider it a realm of glory. The graduates are happy to be there, but she notes that their futures are about to be decided, and tells them they've been invited to the main hall. As they make their way there, Liana asks Wignall about the light and sky, so he explains that they're advanced illusion magic. Colette realizes everyone's wearing Gloria, and she's amazed by the research facilities, which make her feel like she's living the dream. She notices a crepe shop, but Liana suddenly dashes toward it and buys 5 crepes for herself. So Colette drags her away, and reminds her they're about to attend the entrance ceremony. William finds her amusing, but Xian warns him not to get too excited, since the tower seems to have a dark side. William wonders what he means, but as he looks around, he notices that the other mages are staring at them, and Julius realizes the rumors were true, so he starts to fear for his future. After that, the graduates head to the main hall, where they see mages from the elemental factions, and Colette notices the leader of the colorless faction named Kreutz, but she finds him intimidating. Several platforms descend from the top, and the Magia appear before them, and Wignall is happy to see Eleanor, but notices she won't even look at him. William is also happy to see Elferia, but wonders why she looks sad, and Clary thanks the Magia for joining them. She announces it's time for the first bloom, and notes that they'll start with the blessing of color for those who have been scouted during their time in the academy. The Magia surround the chosen ones with pillars of light, but Julius isn't included, so he thinks he's about to get left behind. The glory of the chosen ones transform as they join their factions, but William wonders what will happen to him, since his robe is still white. In a flashback to the previous day, we see Elferia angry since she wasn't allowed to scout William, so Sarissa tells her to calm down. She mentions that Sarissa told her she could scout him after he graduated, and wonders why the letters she gave her never reached him. So Sarissa explains that it's because of Kreutz, who doesn't want William to join a faction since he can't use magic. She notes that he still has a chance, since he can prove himself to everyone at the first bloom, and Elferia knows he can do it, so she agrees to watch how things play out. Back in the present, Clary tells the chosen ones to go to their factions, and hopes they do well in the future. But she explains that the colorless ones are considered worthless, and they can't reach the top of the tower since they don't have a faction. William's friends realize the rumors are true, because those who can't join a faction are stuck on the first floor, where they will work to support those above them. But Clary tells them they still have a chance, since they can still get recruited if they prove their abilities. She announces the start of the main event, and there are monsters that appear from a portal, as she tells the colorless graduates to defeat them to prove their worth. They panic as the monsters attack them, and two of them combine their spells to burn a monster, but it has no effect, so they wonder if it's immune to magic. Kreutz reveals that the monsters Zoctonia were created by the tower as guardians for the first floor, and they're strong enough to defeat monsters on the late middle floors of the dungeon. He thinks fresh graduates don't stand a chance against them, but Julius easily defeats one of them, and another one attacks him from behind. It crushes his ice clone, but he freezes it with his magic, and everyone can't believe he defeated two Zoctonia in an instant. The head of the Wind faction, Erwin, realizes he has incredible talent, and the Dark faction wonders why he hasn't been scouted yet, so he thinks he has already proven his worth. But Elferia doesn't even look at him, and he thinks she doesn't like him since he bullied William. Erwin thinks the other mages are a joke, but Sarissa notes that William is starting to attract attention, and we see him avoid a monster's attacks. Julius tells him he needs to fight back, but his friends know he was observing its movements, and he prepares to take it on. He realizes Elferia was sad since she couldn't scout him, but he thinks it's okay, because he's determined to work his way to the top. He rushes forward, and the monster smashes the ground to attack him, but he jumps around it and slices it in half. Everyone thinks he's amazing, and they're impressed that he can already read the Zoctonia's movements, since he only watched them for a short time. He dodges a monster's attack and slices through its shield, but another group of Zoctonia appear, and they immediately surround Julius. He attacks one of them with his ice, but it deflects the shards, and one of them flies at Elferia, so William rushes to protect her. He absorbs the ice with his wheeze spell and charges up his sword, and he dives toward the monsters as he activates his full burst, which allows him to freeze them as he cuts them into pieces. Everyone can't understand what kind of spell he used, and they realize he wiped out the Zoctonia, so Elferia prepares to recruit him. But the other factions also take an interest in him, and everyone can't believe it, since it's never happened before. Clary tells him to choose which faction to join, and he realizes it's his chance to be with Elferia, but Kreutz suddenly makes an objection, and notes that the skill he used to defeat the Zoctonia isn't magic. Kreutz explains that he only graduated thanks to his actions during Terminalia, and thinks he isn't worthy to join a faction. So Elferia wonders if Kreutz even watched the fight, since everyone saw him use his wheeze. He explains that it isn't considered magic, since William simply repurposed someone else's spell, and he thinks William isn't even a mage, so they shouldn't welcome him to the tower. He wants William to prove that he can use magic, so he summons slime monsters, and explains that they're immune to physical attacks, since they were made to counter dwarves. He casts a basic spell to destroy one of them, and notes that even low-level magic can kill them, so they shouldn't be a problem for William if he's a mage. He dodges its attack and slices it in half, but it immediately regenerates, so he realizes he's in trouble, and he struggles to keep up with it. Clary asks for Carriot's opinion, so he notes that Kreutz made a good point, and explains that they can't let a non-magic user advance in the tower, since it's the apex of the magical world. William realizes the slime won't go down no matter how much he cuts it, but thinks he can defeat it by destroying its core. So he stabs through it, but Kreutz notes that he made the wrong move, since the core is also immune to physical attacks. The slime surrounds itself with electricity, so William jumps back, and Clary knows it's strong enough to stun a dwarf. The mages Lyril and Brandel realize he's struggling against the slime, and they recall how he risked his life to save them, so they decide to help him. But Kreutz stops them, and tells them they aren't allowed to interfere. Xion becomes upset, because William can't defeat the slime, and he does his best to fight on, but it sends him flying. He refuses to give up, but Kreutz suddenly gets rid of it, since he has already made his point. He thinks William should stay in the Upper Institute, so that they can study him and learn about the fifth element, and Carriot thinks it's a good idea. But Elfaria becomes angry, since she doesn't want him to turn into a lab rat. Zio knows they won't stop arguing, so he suggests holding another bloom, and Clary notes that in a normal year, the next one would be held after 6 months, but since the tower suffered heavy losses during Terminalia, they've decided to make an exception. She notes that the second bloom will be held after a week, so the colorless graduates still have time to prepare, and she tells them to work hard to prove their worth. Kreutz isn't happy with her announcement, and the Magia order their assistants to take them back to the top, but William suddenly collapses. He starts to laugh, since he always fails when he's close to reaching his goal, but he's determined to train harder so that he can prove his worth. Zio's assistant Guilford wonders why Zio didn't try to recruit William, so he explains that he wanted him to reach rock bottom first, since it's more entertaining to see people recover and get stronger. The next day, we see William studying all the elements, since he wants to find a way to counter the slime. But his companions think he's insane, since he never stopped studying after the first bloom. One of them, named Emma, invites him to train with them in the dungeon, and notes that they can go deeper than the 10th floor since they're now high mages. But Julius suddenly bursts into the room, and notes that William will train with him. He tells William he can defeat the slime if he learns to control his wheeze, and promises to help him do it, but he wonders why Julius wants to help him. He explains that it's because he thinks of William as his teammate, and he's happy hearing this. But we learn that Julius is just thinking about himself, and thinks Elfaria will recruit him into the Ice faction if he helps William. He tells William they must start training immediately, and they head to an open field, where William activates his wheeze to charge up his sword. Julius tells him to maintain it, and he summons his ice birds, which start to fly around William. Julius tells him to keep his energy in check so that he won't destroy the birds, but William asks him about the point of their exercise, so he explains that he wants William to learn to activate his wheeze by himself. He thinks he can't do it, since he needs to use other people's magic to charge up his sword, but Julius tells him to stop talking, and notes that he doesn't even know his limits yet. He tells William to anchor magical energy, and explains that it doesn't matter where he got it, since he can make his own if he stops it from leaving his body. Julius notes that if he controls his output and maintains it, he can keep the magical energy for days, and he explains that if William can use it during his battles, his wheeze will become as good as magic. Julius knows he must fight the slime again, and notes that even the weakest spells can destroy it, so he doesn't need to use a lot of magic to defeat it. William realizes the plan could work, and thinks Julius is brilliant for coming up with it, so he praises him and wonders why none of the factions recruited him, but he becomes devastated hearing this. After several attempts, William still struggles to control his output, so Julius becomes annoyed, and tells him he isn't making progress. We learn that he can only control his output for 50 minutes, and he knows that if he dispels his wheeze, he'll lose all of his stamina, so he thinks they're just wasting time. Julius wants to continue their training, but he reaches his limit, so William notes that they should first learn more about his wheeze. But Julius reveals that his clones are already gathering information as they speak, and William can't believe he can control his clones while they're training. He explains that he had to do it since they're short on time, but he gets a headache, and notes that his head is a mess because of the multitasking. William wonders why he's going to such lengths just to help him, so he admits that he's doing it for self-interest, but William recalls how he kept his promises and thinks he's actually a kind person. He notes that kindness can take different forms, but Julius suddenly remembers someone and tells William he needs to take a break. In a flashback, we see Julius as he treats an injured kitten, and his maid Anna tells him she likes him since he's a kind person. She gives him her necklace, and he falls in love with her, but after some time, she ends up marrying another man. He realizes it doesn't matter how kind he is, since he lost her in the end, so he decided to abandon his kindness, and thinks he can achieve more if he's selfish. Back in the present, we see that Julius still has the necklace Anna gave him, but he doesn't want anyone to call him a kind person, since he already killed his kindness when he was little. We see Kreutz in his lab, where he watches Julius through a camera, and he tells his assistant Charles to contact the other colorless mages. Julius reaches a dead end, but he suddenly sees a lightning bolt approaching, so he summons an ice wall to block it. He sees 3 colorless mages, who explain that they were ordered to get rid of him, and he tells them they aren't supposed to stop other mages from training, since they're members of the tower. They continue to attack him, and tell him he'll never understand how they feel, since they're stuck in the upper institute. They reveal that Kreutz promised to write a letter of recommendation for them, so that they can join a faction, so Julius realizes they're desperate to advance in the tower. He struggles to defend himself, because he's already out of magical energy, and he knows he can't win since he's outnumbered. But he tells them he remembers them as former prodigies, and mocks them since they've become complete failures. He notes that he'd rather die than end up like them, so they remind him he's also colorless. But he explains that he'll do anything it takes to climb the tower, so that he can look down on them after he reaches the top. They become angry and attack him with their spells, but William suddenly protects him, and Julius wonders what he's doing there. He explains that he was also attacked by mages, so he decided to look for him, but Julius thinks he doesn't deserve to be saved, since he's done terrible things to him. He reminds William he's acting out of self-interest, but William calls him a kind person again, so he punches William in the face and tells him he hates him. The mages prepare to attack again, but they suddenly get surrounded by flames, and a woman tells them they shouldn't use magic to stop other mages from training. She introduces herself as Saradwen, and tells William and Julius she wants to become their teacher, but Julius knows she has a bad reputation, and notes that she kidnaps students to experiment on them. She explains that it isn't true, and notes that she trains students who interest her, revealing that she's been watching William and Julius for a long time. Julius doesn't trust her, but she captures them with her water magic, and notes that they'll discuss everything after they find a safe spot. We cut to Iris, who asks Elpharia why she didn't recruit Julius, so she explains that it's because he bullied William. She wonders what Mysterious thinks of him, so Iris notes that he's just letting things play out, and reveals that he isn't interested in William, but he'll let him join a faction if he proves his worth. Iris notes that she'll serve as his guardian since she's a watcher, but Elpharia tells her to stop dreaming, and Sarissa realizes they're fighting over him. Saradwen takes William and Julius to her secret base, where she gives them food, but Julius doesn't want to eat it since it might be poisoned. But William digs in, and notes that the food is fine, because Kiki is already eating it. Saradwen reveals that Clary built the hideout, and notes that she's her apprentice. But Julius asks Saradwen what she wants from them, and explains that he doesn't trust her, because he thinks she's up to something. She understands why he's cautious, but she surrounds them with her magic circles, and they can't believe she can cast so many spells without an incantation. She explains that she could destroy them if she wanted to, but she doesn't have bad intentions, so she won't do anything to harm them. She tells them she can help them, because she knows about Wheeze, and she notes that she doesn't agree with the Upper Institute's methods, since they're using dirty tactics to keep William there. We return to Kreutz, who realizes William and Julius have disappeared, so he orders Charles to look for them. But Charles wonders why he wants to trap William, so he explains that he wants to experiment on him. He takes out a monster's corpse, and explains that he finds it interesting, since it was able to wield the Mage Slayer despite its low intelligence. He notes that wielding a powerful weapon makes a huge difference, and he thinks they should mass-produce William's power so that the mages will be unstoppable. But he cuts the monster's corpse, and explains that they must dissect William to learn his secret. Charles realizes he's insane, and thinks the Upper Institute is doomed if Elpharia learns about his dark side, but he crushes the monster's heart, and notes that he now understands the principles behind the Mage Slayers. Ceridwen tells William she doesn't want him to become Kreuz's test subject, so she decided to help him, and she adds that Alferia begged her to do it. He tells Julius he trusts her, since he thinks she isn't lying, and he feels like he's known her for a long time. She realizes they've reached an agreement, so she tells William and Julius she'll help them get stronger, but she suddenly tells them to take off their clothes. William removes his shirt, but he becomes nervous since he doesn't know what she'll do to him, and Julius thinks she's a pervert. But Julius notices the scars on his back, and thinks he must have gone through hell to reach the tower. She asks him how he got it, but he tells her he doesn't know, so she thinks it's the reason he can't control his wheeze. She reveals that she watched his training with Julius, and notes that anchoring magical energy was a smart choice, so she praises Julius for coming up with the idea. He thinks he's wrong since it didn't work, but she explains that it isn't the case, and notes that William can already store magical energy. But his body can't release them, so he's forced to rely on other people's spells to use wheeze. She explains that he must learn to use his stored magical energy, and she draws a magic circle as she tells him to remember his past. She pushes him to the center and casts a spell to unlock his memories, causing his soul to leave his body. He falls into a dark tunnel where he sees everything that happened in the past, and he wakes up in a forest where Alferia promises to protect him from the monsters. After 4 days, Julius is worried since William is still asleep, so Ceridwen explains that he's dreaming about his past. Julius doesn't think it will help him unlock his power, but she hopes he makes his way back to his origins so that he can find the reason he can't use his stored energy. We return to William as he wonders if he went back in time, but he knows it's impossible since no one can travel to the past. He realizes he's dreaming about his time with Alferia, who notices he's lost in thought, so she asks him if he's thinking about another girl. He explains that it isn't the case, but she doesn't believe him and starts to throw a tantrum, so he hugs her and pats her head to make it up to her. She reveals that there are strange monsters in the forest, which are causing problems for her father, and she wants to defeat them, but William tells her it's too dangerous. He reminds her he can't use magic, but she tells him not to worry, and notes that she brought their favorite book, which fills them with courage whenever they read it. He recalls that he used to be a coward, who relied on her to protect him, and she uses the spell she invented to make ice candies. He wonders why she always gives him candies, so she explains it's because he shares his food with everyone at the orphanage, and they read the book together. We learn that a witch in the story told the hero his crimson treasure doesn't exist, but he knew she couldn't see it because of the sky. So he used his sword to get rid of it, and showed her the sunset, which is the most beautiful crimson in the world. William sees the picture of the hero, and realizes it looks like Finn, but he thinks he's just imagining it. Alferia continues the story, as she notes that the witch cried when she saw the sunset, and she wanted to keep seeing it. But Alferia stops as she realizes William is sleepy, so she tells him to sleep on her lap. She realizes nobody's watching them, so she thinks about kissing him, but he suddenly wakes up, so she explains that she just removed something from his face. They head deeper into the forest, but they reach a dark area where evil mages and monsters are said to linger. William recalls that they went there, even though his father warned him it was dangerous, but he doesn't remember what happened next. They run through the woods, but a monster suddenly attacks them, and they realize there's a crystal stuck in its chest. William knows it's a mage-created creature, but he realizes it's injured, and thinks it's because it fled from a war. Alferia summons her clones, and creates ice shards to attack the monster, but it reflects her magic, and instantly destroys all of them. An ice shard hits William, who realizes Alferia is no match for the monster, so he tells her to run for her life, but she doesn't want to leave him behind. He realizes she's putting her life on the line to protect him, and thinks he's pathetic, since he can't do anything to help her. He begs his younger self to move, and he runs to save her, as she summons her ice shards again. The monster reflects them, but before they hit her, William sacrifices himself to protect her. She cries as she realizes he's injured, and he passes out, but he wonders what happened next, since he doesn't remember. He thinks someone must have saved them, but his body suddenly overflows with energy as he awakens his power. He creates a sword with his power, which freezes the monster's arm as he cuts it, and he attacks it again, but it catches his sword and pushes him back. Alferia rushes to his side, and strengthens his sword with her magic, which completely freezes the monster, and they're able to defeat it. As they both fall to the ground, Elpharia tells William he can finally use magic and thanks him for saving her life. William wakes up in the present, but Julius tells him they need to hurry since the second bloom is about to start. Ceridwen asks him if he now understands the nature of his stored energy, so he tells her he now remembers everything and he's confident he'll do well in the second bloom. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.